Hey everybody, welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. It's time, hurry up. We're running out of time. I mean, basically what's going on is it looks as though all danger of frost is past. And it looks like we're gonna get some rain this year, which is kind of nice. I think Monday we're supposed to get a little bit of rain. So it's time to start getting stuff planted out. It appears as though all danger of frost is past. I've got a forecast that goes out till I think the first week in March, through the first week in March, and it's saying 50 degrees at night, 40 degrees at night throughout. So it is time to start getting things put out. So with that being said, I have gone through this bed here and I have basically put a bunch of compost into it. I dug it all up, got it all ready to go. So this is all prepped up and ready to rock. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to put some plants in the ground and see how it goes. Now, one of the things I had talked about was buying plants at the store. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and show you. Well, let me do this first. First, what I'm going to do, this is my square foot garden, so I'm going to rope it all off. I'll kind of show you how that works. That way I can see where my square feet are, because this is a 3-foot wide bed. So I'll get right back with you here in just a second. Alright, so this is my square foot bed, and basically what I've done is every foot along these boards I have put a nail in. Okay, now I didn't hammer the nail all the way down. I was just sticking up about a ½ inch, quarter inch. Alright, and the idea is that I can rope it off with some string so I know about where every square foot is. So now to do this, what I do is I'll take my string here. Now, this is a cotton string that will rot down. Won't last but maybe a year, sometimes not even a full year. Alright, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to take one under, flip it over like so, alright, and then back around. And all you're doing is making a slip knot. So basically this knot will slide back and forth like so. Alright, you take that slip knot, you put it there, take it this way, wrap it around this nail, grab my knife, cut the string, and then just tie a square knot or any kind of knot. Keeping in mind, I mean, you're not really trying to keep it tight necessarily. You're just really marking things off so you know kind of where things are. Alright, so you got basically a square knot, and I'll do the same thing going this way and that way, but as you can see, I'm almost out of string. Like I said, I like to use either cotton or jute, and the reason being that it basically makes it rot down. So it's a natural fiber, so I want it to be able to rot down and go down into the soil and become compost over time. You can use nylon string, it will last longer, but it will not become compost. Now sometimes you will have plants left over. Like if you look right here, I think you can see this right here, this is actually some thyme that is still growing, and it's the only thyme we have left. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that there, because this, like I said, the only time we have left. The rest of it all died off in the wintertime. Can't seem to keep it growing in a pot, but for some reason this spot right here seems to do very well. Alright, so we'll do one more of these. Now obviously the best bet is to have your fertilizer or your compost already in the soil. Alright, now you can add compost and fertilizer afterwards, but if you have it pre-done, then at least for the first little bit you don't have to worry about it. That's about all I got, I think. Might be able to make one more. We'll go with this for now. I just want to show you how to go about planting things. Now, this is good. Oh, Mr. Kitty, where you going? You find a lizard? Man, that cat showed up. Actually showed up on one of my videos a while back, last year. Gosh, I guess it only has been about a year. Anyway, she loves lizards. But you want to make sure you fluff up the soil, get it all stirred up and ready to go. And then we're going to talk about plants. Now, like I said, one of the things that I had talked about in a previous video, let me get up here close. So one of the things I had talked about in a previous video is that you want to try and get plants that have multiple plants in the cell. Alright, if you're going to buy plants. And what I did is I got this one here. Mr. Kitty, that is not, no, out, hey, out, on. I forgot what I was even talking about. That's crazy. Hazards are getting old. So basically what I got is, out of that one cell, I have 2 plants. Now you can see this is pretty well getting root bound. Alright, so what we got to do, we're going to crumble most of the dirt off. Alright, don't waste it. It's all good dirt. Probably even has some fertilizer in it. That's the only time my plants get actual fertilizer when I buy them from the store. And what you want to do is you want to loosen all this root mass up, because the roots are intertwined pretty heavily. All right. And the more of that dirt you can get off. That's my helper, Mr. Kitty, named after the South Park cat. And he is a she. We went to the vet one time and told him the name of the cat. Said, "This is Mr. Kitty," and they informed me at the vet, Mr. Kitty is a Miss Kitty. And we said, "No, he's trans." And they're like, "Oh, okay." I'm just kidding. Well, no, I mean, that was actually what I told them. But anyway, so when you get these roots kind of intertwined like that, you just kind of want to jerk at them a little bit, kind of gently pull them apart. All right. Now you're going to lose a few roots in this process, and that's okay. All right, because you only really paid for 1 per cell anyway. But the idea is, if you do it properly, then you should get a pretty good chunk of roots on both. All right. So now I've got 2 pepper plants that I can plant, and these peppers are Bonnie Green Bells, which have always done me pretty well. I don't mind buying them at the store because, like I said, they tend to do well. And then what we're going to do, the idea behind the square foot garden is a couple things. One, it's a more compact way of planting. All right, and then 2, you're going to have taller plants in the front in this direction because, all right, the sun goes this way where I'm sitting. Okay, so I want the taller plants here so that in the summertime they will shade somewhat. Oh, excuse me. They will shade somewhat the plants behind them in the afternoons, from the afternoon sun. Now peppers get somewhat tall. We'll go ahead and put 1 here. Now, like I said, I normally would have my strings there, but I'm out of string, so unfortunately I have to imagine that line. So I'm going to put this pepper plant here, and then I take a handful of soil and I'll sprinkle it over the top of the roots, because I want those roots to all be covered by soil. All right, I don't want any of those roots to be in a void where basically you have air instead of soil contacting the roots. Now, another thing we want to talk about is strength of plant. Okay, now if you look carefully, you can see that's a pretty thick plant. I mean, you're talking probably 1/4 inch or so. And you want a nice, solid, thick plant because there are cutworms. Okay, and the cutworms will actually take a plant like this, if it's a finer, softer plant, and they will cut it off at the base, and you will lose your plant. Okay, they do this a lot to baby tomatoes. They do this a lot to I've seen cucumbers and things like that are just starting actually have this issue. All right, they do like tomatoes though. I will tell you this: make sure your tomatoes have got a good, 1/4 inch or bigger stem to them that's got a little bit of heft to it, so that the cutworms can't get in there and just cut them all off. Because if you get one cutworm, it'll tear up a garden. Now, one of the things you can do is if you come out just as dusk is coming around, that's when the cutworms come out. So if you got a problem with cutworms, go out right at dusk, watch your plants that are getting cut, and you'll probably find that cutworm. Man, it is so cool. I've got all my bolting tatsoi right behind me, and I have got bees all over it. So, well, not a whole bunch, but I got a few bees, all right, which is fantastic. And some of them are the native bees, and some of them are the non-native honeybees. All right, none of these I take care of or grow here, but it's really nice that I've got native bees coming in. And now that I've got some bolting plants, I'm going to leave some of them there so that they can continue to feed those bees, because we need pollinators. Now, part of the thing, part of what we're trying to do with a square foot garden is we want to separate the plants. Now, why does it matter to separate the plants? Well, a couple of reasons. One, different plants have different requirements. Some are heavier feeders than others, and also some have different nutrients that they suck up out of the soil that companion plants won't compete with as much. All right. So and then the third reason, is it 2 or 3? Anyway, another reason why is that it does confuse the pests. Basically what happens is pests often key off on smells, all right, and sometimes they key off on looks. And if you have a whole bunch of the same plant in the same area, then all the pests that like that plant know to go to that area to feed, all right, and that feeding action is what destroys a lot of your plants. All right, so by planting in different areas and separating them with some other plants, and then I'll throw some marigolds in here too to try and keep some of the pests off, because they're fantastic at doing that, and some nasturtiums hopefully. I think I still got some seed. I have a hard time with nasturtiums, so for some reason they just do not want to grow for me. But at any rate, so doing this will hopefully help me to confuse the pests and try and keep things growing better as we go along. Now, that being said, one of the other things you want to look at, is your sun. How much sun do you have in your garden? Okay. Also, all right. So this is another double. So we'll go ahead and split this out. So I checked it this afternoon at about noon to make sure that I had the kind of sun that I thought I might. And basically right now my sun line is right here at these posts, right, which are my supports for the wooden raised garden bed. All right. So if you live someplace where you have summer sun but not so much winter sun, you might want to consider planting those areas that are not currently in the sunshine last. Now, you don't necessarily have to do that, because you know that, well, I'm assuming you would know, you may not be in the same place you've always been, or you may not have the information that you need. But for the most part, hopefully you'll know where the sun gets in the summertime. And keep in mind that the sun moves slowly further north as the summer goes on, and getting that more direct, more intense sunlight. All right. But the idea is that you want certain plants in full sun and certain plants in partial sun. Now down here in Florida, most plants prefer some partial, all right, because as summer months go on, the sun gets very intense down here. Okay, So if you can plan it out that way, where you put your garden matters. Come on, baby. Now when you're doing this, you want to try not to rip those roots any more than absolutely necessary. So you just slowly pulling a little bit at a time, kind of yanking on it. Mr. Kitty, come on. Out, out, come on, out. Yep, there you go. Alright. I know, she's trying to help. Anyway, but yeah, down here in Florida, too much intense sunshine will kill a lot of plants. Alright, so if you have the opportunity to plant trees and such, or put your garden in a space to where ideally you have a bit of summertime shade in the afternoon, that's preferable. Alright, now not everybody has that opportunity, but you can build that. You can design it in to where you're putting your garden. Alright, so let's put this one here. And now, another thing, if you're planting these plants like this, I highly recommend that you water them thoroughly afterwards. Alright? And you're like, well, yeah, of course you got to water your plants. But the idea is, what you're trying to do when you water is not only watering the plants, because my soil here is very moist, so. Alright? But you're also trying to get the soil that may not be in contact currently with the roots to get flushed down to where it is, where it's actually touching all those roots, and all those roots have got some sort of contact with the actual soil itself. Alright, I want to cover one more thing about these potted plants, the plants you buy at the store. Okay. And I got to say, I'm really surprised with the amount of roots that these plants have for being no taller than they are. Alright. As you can see right here, that these are pretty much root mound. Alright. For no taller than they are, that's pretty crazy. Alright. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull these roots out. Kind of break them up a little bit. And remember, you can break a few roots. It's not going to cause a lot of trouble. Just kind of break them up so that the roots that are starting to go around in circles will actually start to head outwards and downward. Okay? Just kind of break things up like so. So that instead of planting this, which you can see, like I said, all the roots are going in a circle, you want something more like this. Alright, where all the roots are kind of going in all different directions, and hopefully will spread out and really work into the soil around the plant. Alright. Now I know that one of the things that you get told, and it's good advice, is that you want to try and rotate your crops. In other words, you want to try and put a different crop in an area from what you had there last year, whenever possible. And it is good advice, but in a square foot garden, because you've got such a multitude of different types of plants, it's really not nearly as necessary. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. I would just go ahead and plan them out. I mean, if you have a plan, which I do not, or a map basically of your garden, then you can probably select more where you want to place each plant based upon what you had planted in that square foot area. But one of the things I did is I did dig around in this, get all the weeds out, threw some new fresh compost into it. So it really shouldn't matter too much where things are. hopefully. But I'm not going to worry about that this time. So out of that 6-pack of plants, I ended up getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plants. All right, not a huge bonus, but you know, if you can find them, I highly recommend it whenever possible. If you're buying plants, being able to buy doubles helps a lot. All right. So there we go. I got 8 pepper plants planted. I'm going to do some other things you might want to consider doing right now too. If you have tomatoes, if they're not big enough to put out, and again, I mean, you know, they don't need to be pinky size, but I'd recommend a tomato plant that's at least 6 inches, 8 inches tall, all right, before you put it out in the garden. All right, if you do it any smaller, you're risking the cutworms. Now, if you have tomato plants like I do that are in a tray like this, then you probably have multiples. So what I'll do is I'll take them out, I'll mix up some compost and garden soil. I usually do about 50-50, 50% compost, 50% garden soil, which has some compost in it. And then what I'll do is stir that around, mix it all up, and I'll take, you know, good sized pots, and I will individualize. You can do it in these, but it's still pretty small. So what I prefer is to do, you know, the pots that are about, oh, I don't know, 4 inches across, maybe 3 inches across. Because, you know, when I bought plants, I've kept all these pots, so I have a ton of pots. And plant them like that. Now, if you don't have those pots, you don't have a way to pot up, you don't have the ability to make a bunch of garden soil, you can put them out here. One of the things I have seen people do is take paper towel or toilet paper rolls and put them around the base of your plant, like maybe even cut it in half and put it just in a circle around your plant. And obviously it's a circle, it's a toilet paper roll, but put that circle around the plant, and that will sometimes help to keep the cutworms away. That's another little garden hack, I guess, that you can use to avoid the cutworms. Because I'm telling you, cutworms can go through, man. If you get some cutworms, they'll decimate your plants. All right, and you know, like I have 1 batch of seeds that I planted, actually 2 batches of seeds. What was it? Sun Gold cherry tomatoes and Ace 55 tomato. Out of all of those seeds that I planted, only 1 of each grew. So I want to baby those along and make sure that those tomatoes and those tomato plants in particular are well taken care of. So I'll let them get probably even bigger. I'll let them get pretty good size before I put them out in the garden. All right, that's what I'm doing. It's now a race. All right, mid-June, early July, middle of July, somewhere between mid-June and mid-July, it gets hot. It gets real hot. If you don't have things already grown by then, a lot of things are going to fade and die. Even peppers and tomatoes, they won't die necessarily. If you can keep them alive, sometimes they'll survive through the season. But the problem is, like tomatoes will not fruit above 90 degrees. All right. Basically, I guess what it is the pollen gets too sticky, and it doesn't pollinate, self-pollinate itself, or get pollinated by pollinators because of how sticky that pollen is when it's hot. Another airplane. Busy day at the airport. Labeling. I highly recommend you label. Now, do you really need to? No. I mean, I know that these are peppers, and by putting this one label here, right there, and you know, in fact, I've got videos, of course, that helps a ton. But I will know now that all of these pepper plants that are in here are one particular variety, the Bonnie Green Bells, all right, which we love. We love bell peppers, man. We get a bunch of bell peppers. Had a hard time getting them to grow last year, though. The bells did not do well, but the banana peppers did fantastic. The sweet bananas, they really produced a lot, and they grew very well. So I'll probably go and try and find some plants. I had some seed, but I don't know if I just didn't let them ripen long enough or what have you. It didn't seem to want to grow, so I'll go buy some more plants, and it's okay because I can afford it. But yeah, I don't like to use heat mats, but I know that peppers like soil temperatures between 60 and 70 degrees, 60 to 75, something like that, to germinate. So I don't have a heat mat to keep them at that point. Don't really have a good spot to grow things inside the house. I'm thinking about some stuff, but that'll be for next year. About trying to get something basically started. One of the issues, the only south-facing portion of the house that I have is on my bedroom side. And, you know, it's one thing, because, you know, anytime you're using native garden soil, there's going to be some insects inside the soil. All right, and gnats is one of them, and I don't want a bunch of gnats flying around in my bedroom late at night. I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't need gnats crawling up my nose while I'm trying to sleep. All right, so we don't want that. I could potentially do some screening or something. Anyway, bottom line is that's not something I want to deal with right at the moment. All right, but yep, that's what I got going on. All right, so it's time. It's now time. All right, if you already got stuff in the ground, hopefully everything survived the frost. But if you don't, it's time. All right, it looks like we're not going to have any more freezing temperatures this year. Hopefully. Now, you know, there's always that, you know, oddball storm that, you know, blows much cold south. Hopefully that won't happen. It has happened before though. So, you know, up until probably the middle of March, I always said before I was not going to plant anything till Easter. Man, that's real late. All right, and then you've only got April, May, and June, basically 3 months to grow whatever it is you want to grow, to get you through June, July, and August, or July and August and partial September, before you can really start growing a lot of things again. So, don't really want to do that. That's why I'm getting them out now. If I got to cover, I can cover. These things will still be small for a while longer. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Do me a favor, give me a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think. Comments too. If you got comments, questions, you know, I do try and get back to them. I'm not as good at it as ought to be, but I will try and answer all the comments at some point. We get something growing in your yard. All right, this summer is going to be so fantastic. If all of these grow, to be able to come out here and get bell peppers anytime I want. And bell peppers will grow through the heat and into the summer. Not as well, but they will grow, and I've had them actually last all the way until the next year and produce peppers again the next year. So they can actually go 2 years, maybe even 3, depending. And then there's some strategies to overwintering peppers, but we'll get into that later. All right, again, thanks for stopping by. Come back and see me, and grow something. Get something growing in your yard. You'll thank yourself. All right, y'all take care now.